I believe in Hashem. I trust in Hashem. There never is a moment when that I am alone and I'm on my own. I believe and I trust in Hashem because I understand that He's holding my hand and every step is perfectly planned. He's holding me tight, so I'll be all right. I believe and I trust in Hashem. We are now in a very special year, Shnas Hakel. And I'm sure you heard a lot about it. You're going to hear more about it to Mi'etz Hashem. But I have a very special story. But first we have to talk about Hakel, and then we'll really appreciate the story. The mitzvah of Hakel was given to the Yidden to do at the beginning of every 7-year cycle. What does that mean? Just like we count the 7 days of the week, we work for 6 days. On the 7th day is Shabbos. We stop all work. The same thing, Hashem gave the Yidden a mitzvah that when they come into Eretz Yisroel, they should work on the ground for 6 years. And the 7th year is called Shemitah. Shabbos la Hashem. That means we stop all work. The farmers put down their shovels, the plows, all the tools, and they're not in the field for a whole year. Vacation. What do? They go to the Beis HaMedrash. They learn. They spend more time on davening. 1 full year of no work, but working for Hashem, which means Shabbos la Hashem, learning Torah. After those 7 years are over, then we start counting another 7 years. But at the beginning of the next 7 years, when the Yidden come to Eretz Yisrael, to Yerushalayim, to the Beis HaMikdash for Sukkot, they got a mitzvah that on the first day of Chol HaMoed Sukkot, all the Yidden should do the mitzvah of Hakel, which means to gather all together in the Beis HaMikdash. And what's going to happen there? The Melech Yisrael, whoever is the king of the Yidden then, gets up on a wooden platform and reads from a Sefer Torah certain parshios. And the Yidden all listen. Who comes to Hakel? Everyone. Men, women, children, babies, newborns. Everyone. No exception at all. This is very similar to Matan Torah. When the Yidden came out of Mitzrayim and they came to Har Sinai to get the Torah from Hashem, everyone was there. Men, women, children, babies, newborns, everyone. In fact, our Chacham say that Hashem brought also all the future neshamas of the Yidden who are going to be born in the future generations. Hashem brought them all to Har Sinai. Everyone should get the Torah. Why? Because when Hashem gave the Torah, He also gave us the tools. He gave us the koyach, the strength that we need to be able to always keep the Torah and the mitzvahs. And that's why even the neshamas of Gerim, Goyim who became Yidden, their neshamas that they get when they become a ger was also there by Har Sinai. So everyone was there. And we heard from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. We saw Hashem. We saw godliness. And Hashem wants that every 7 years we should repeat this. Yes, that's what the Rambam says. The reason for Hakel is to re-experience and relive Matan Torah, as if we're standing by Har Sinai and getting the Torah. And just like by Har Sinai, everyone was there, by Hakel, everyone is there. Now, just imagine what we felt like by Har Sinai. What was the feeling that every Yid had by Har Sinai? Seeing the great revelations what Hashem showed us, hearing Anoichi Hashem Elokecha, and mainly being amongst millions of Yidden together. Everyone. Kind of uplifting feeling we had. Such an uplifted feeling, we felt like the best. Like Hashem calls us. He says, V'yisem li am segula. That you are for me like a treasure. A real treasure. Hashem chose us. And this Hashem did for one purpose. We look on Chumash, we see Hashem said by Matan Torah, through Moshe Rabbeinu, Atem re'isem, you have seen with your eyes. You saw how Hashem was speaking to you. Why? In order, Laman tia yerasai al penechem, in order that every Yid should have fear for Hashem and always do the mitzvahs. And that's what we get by every Hakel. Every Hakel, we are repeating the same thing like by Har Sinai. Except for the fact, by Har Sinai, we heard from HaKadosh Baruch Hu the words Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. We don't hear that by Hakel. Who reads it to us? The Melech of the Yidden, the King of the Yidden. Hashem tells him to read certain portions of the Torah, but that's supposed to also give us Liyiras Hashem, to fear Hashem and to serve Hashem properly. And that's why at the beginning of each 7 years cycle, the Yidden get together and they hear those parts of the Torah that will inspire them, especially being amongst so many millions of Yidden together. It gives us such a good feeling that we continue doing the Torah and the mitzvahs for the next 7 years, exactly as Hashem wants, until the next Hakel, when we get a new boost. It's like recharging and getting stronger and better in serving Hashem. Now, as you know, the reason why Hashem chose the Yidden to give them the Torah, Hashem first went to the other nations. Esav, Yishmael, why didn't they get the Torah? The reason they did not get the Torah, because they did not say yes. We said Na'aseh v'nishma. We'll do anything you say. The Goyim said Nishma. Let's first hear what's in the Torah. We'll see if we like it. And then we'll decide if Na'aseh, if we're going to do it. The Yidden said Na'aseh before Nishma. First thing is, we're doing it. It's from you, Hashem. We know it's good. Whatever you tell us to do, we're doing it. What does that mean? There's a certain word for it. It's called Kabbalas oil, or Kabbalas oil Malchus Shamayim, accepting Hashem as our King, that we're going to listen to Him to everything he says. Kabbalas Oil Malchus Shemayim is such an important thing that twice a day, b'shachbecha uvekumecha, when you go to sleep and when you wake up, we say Shema. What's the kavana, the purpose of saying Shema? Kabbalas Oil Malchus Shemayim, to accept Hashem's kingship over us. As a matter of fact, the Friedike Rebbe, in the Maimer Chasidus of Rosh Hashanah, Tafshin Dalid, you know what he says? He says, a Yid is a Kabbalah Soilnik. A Kabbalah Soilnik is a Yid. What's a Yid? What makes a Yid a Yid? The fact that he has Kabbalah's oil, accepts Hashem's kingship. Now, it's not always so easy to do everything that Hashem said without getting the Yetzer Hara coming on the side saying, it's too hard for you. This you can't do. Takes a lot of work. Kabbalah's oil means we do it anyway, even if it's hard, even if we don't understand. That's the whole point of Nase V'Nishma. We say to Hashem, I'm not doing it because I understand it. I'm doing it because you said so. In fact, that's exactly what made Avram Avinu become a Yid. The first Yid. You know how? If you open up the Chumash, we're going to see Avram was such a great tzaddik. He did so many great things throughout his lifetime. From when he was 3 years old, he already recognized that Hashem is the creator. And in another medrash it says, when he reached 40, he recognized Hashem even stronger. When he was 48, even stronger. Till he's 50 years old, he reached the highest level of believing in Hashem. And that's why he went around the whole world. The Rambam tells us the whole story. The Midrashim, that he went around teaching everyone about Hashem. Even though it was difficult. There were people making fun of him. There were people harming him. We know what Avram did in his father's store of idols, of getchkes. He broke them, even though he knew he's putting his life into danger. He broke all the getchkes. Serious nefesh. Nimrod threw him into the fire. Why? Because he's serving Hashem. He didn't want to serve the getchkes. Now take a look in the Chumash and tell me, when did Avram become a Yid? When do the stories of Avram begin? If you look in Chumash, the stories of Avram as a Yid does not begin until he was 75 years old. Can you imagine? Avram did so many good things till he turned 75. From 3 years old, 40, 48, 50, he spread in the whole world about Hashem. There's not even one pasuk in the Torah to tell us stories about Avram of the time before he was 75. The first story that the Torah tells us about Avram was only after he turned 75. What's about all the other stories? How do we know them? We know them from the Medrash, from our Chachamim. They are true, because what the Chachamim say is Ruach HaKodesh, straight from Hashem. So the stories are true. But why aren't they written in the Psukim? The first story about Avram begins when Avram was 75 years old. You know why? Because that's when he became a Yid. What? You mean all the 74 years before he was not a Yid? What happened by 75? Well, why did Avram do all the things until he was 75? Because he had brains. He had a good heart. He understood there must be a God. The world couldn't just happen to be created by itself. Nothing creates itself. There has to be someone who created it. Well, I have news for you. There are many goyim, lahavdil, who also realize that there must be a creator. There are those that are called chasidei umais ha'olam, or tzadikei umais ha'olam, tzadikim amongst the goyim, who follow the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, and they believe in Hashem. And Avram was one of them, who was not yet a Yid. Why not? Because everything that Avram did until he was 75, he did it just because his own brains told him, his own heart told him, there must be a God, you have to be kind, do not steal, do not kill. Did he do it because Hashem told him? No. It wasn't because Hashem gave him a mitzvah. It's not because Hashem told him. The first time that Avram got a mitzvah was in Parshas Lech Lecha. Vayomer Hashem el Avram Lech Lecha. Hashem spoke to Avram and said, get up and go. You know what that means, get up and go? He's in Haran, living peacefully. Everything is quiet. And suddenly, Hashem says to him, get up, come on, and leave. Leave your land. Leave your house. Lech lecha me'artzecha. Go away. Now, anyone who's living comfortably, and he's 75 years old, should ask some obvious questions. Hashem, you're telling me to go. Why? Why should I go? What's wrong with where I am? Where should I go? I have to know what my direction is. And what am I going to do there? And how long is this trip going to be? Avram did not ask a single question. Naseh v'nishma. Kabbalas oil malchus shemayim. He got a command from Hashem, and he did it. That's what's a Yid. That's when he became a Yid. When he got a commandment from Hashem, and he obeyed. The Torah wants us to know that when did Avram become a Yid? When is it worthwhile to start the story of the Yidden? When he became a Yid and he got a commandment from Hashem, Lech Lecha. That's when Avram became a Yid. This is a lesson for all of us. Torah and mitzvahs, we don't do only if our seichel, our brains understand, or our heart feels that way. We do it always, even if we don't understand. Even if sometimes it's a little difficult, we still serve Hashem. We have Kabbalas oil. We do it just because Hashem said so. An example. Let's take a mitzvah as an example, and then we're going to get to our story. The mitzvah of Ahavas Yisroel. I'm doing Ahavas Yisroel, and I have Ahavas Yisroel for Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, everyone. But if I think about it, yeah, you know why I like Reuven very much? He's always nice to me. Shimon always plays games with me. Levi, he's a rich man. It's worth liking him. Yehuda, he's a big Talmud Chacham, a big Rav. I could find reasons in my brains why I love him. But when it comes to someone else, a Yid, that we don't see anything special about this Yid, you might not have proper Ahavas Yisroel. Why should I love him? What's good about him? What's so special? The Torah says, V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. Love, not just love a Yid, love every single Yid. Because you never know how special a Yid really is. Every single Yid has something special. And sometimes we find out, sometimes we don't. You know how many stories we know about tzaddikim nestarim, hidden tzaddikim? They pretended to be a plain guy. Every Yid is special. Every va'amech kolam tzaddikim. We should look at every Yid and love him completely. So here is a story that takes us back many, many years ago to the city of Berditchev. That's where Reb Levi Yitzchak Berditchev lived. There was a Yid, we'll call him David. He was a very rich man. Everyone knew him as a rich man, but also as a miser. Very stingy. Very hard to get any money out of him. When he grew old and he passed away, the Chevra Kadisha, that means the people who take care of the Levaya, the funeral, decided they're going to charge the family a lot extra, much more money than they usually take. Usually they get paid because the workers have to get paid. But they decided because David never gave a lot of tzedakah, they'll take advantage now. And they told the family, yes, we'll take care of him, we'll bury him, we'll do everything, but you got to pay much, much more. When the family heard the amount, they says, let's go to the Rav. Let's see what the Rav says. So they came to Reb Levi Yitzchak Berditchev. And they told him, David, the rich man, passed away. What? Really? Oy, oy, oy. You were able to see on his face a very deep pain. And then they said, we want to charge extra from the family. Because David did not give a lot of money when he was alive. He wasn't generous. So we're going to ask the family now that they should pay extra. Reb Levi Yitzchak said, I don't agree. You should not take even a single penny extra from David's family. And please let me know what time is the Levaya, the funeral, because I want to be there. The word went around town like a lightning flash. Everyone heard that the Rav, who doesn't always go to all Levayas, but he's going to David's Levaya, everyone decided to be there. So all the storekeepers closed their stores. The workers left their jobs. No one remained home. Everyone showed up for the Levaya for David. Although they were all wondering, what's so special about David? Why is the Rav giving him so much honor? What did he do to deserve it? It was the biggest crowd that Berditchev had for many, many years that came to a Levaya. After the Levaya was over, they asked the Rebbeinu Rav, can you please tell us a little bit about David? To us, he seemed like a simple, stingy, unlearned guy. And Rabbi Levi Yitzchak said, I happen to know him much better than all of you. Why don't you sit down and I'll tell you of a story that happened that I know about, and you will realize what kind of tzaddik David really was. And Rabbi Levi Yitzchak began like this. He says, a couple of years back, Gershon, you know the wine dealer? There are many wine dealers in Berditchev. Many people, many stores that sell wine. Where do they get the supply of wine? Gershon is the merchant. He's the main dealer. And he supplies everyone with wine. Where does he get it from? So he goes from one dealer to the next. He goes to all the dealers in town, gets from them money, takes the money, puts it into a big sack, a bag, and he travels many miles to the vineyards where they make the wine, and he buys many barrels of wine, and he brings it to the city. And then he gives it to each wine dealer for how much they paid. And they would give him some extra money for the work. And that's how he made a living. One year, says Reb Levi Yitzchak, something happened to Gershon. He collected the money from everyone, packed it up in a nice bag, and was ready to leave the town, when suddenly he discovered that the money was missing. The money disappeared. Where's my sack of money? 5,000 rubles. Oi! He turned over his house. He looked all over every room, under the beds. He looked everywhere, looked in the garbages, went outside, could not find it. Whoever he asked, he said, did you find 5,000 rubles in a bag? Nobody can help him. He was so distressed that he fainted. They right away called a doctor. Doctor managed to revive him, to wake him up. But as soon as he opened his eyes and he saw the money is missing, he says, "Oi! My 5,000 rubles!" He fainted again. The doctors realized that they have a problem on their hands, and they were getting worried. Suddenly, David, the rich man, came forward with a sack of money. He says, "I found it. I have it. Here it is." And they woke him up, and they showed Gershon the bag of money, and he revived. He came back to himself. He calmed down, and he was happy, and the whole town was happy that Gershon miraculously survived. He stayed alive. Baruch Hashem. A while later, David, the rich guy who gave the money to Gershon, was sitting in his office, and a Yid comes in and says to David, "David, you can fool the whole city, but you cannot fool me." What are you talking about? He says, "I know that you did not find the money. I know what you did. You pretended that you're the one who found the money, and you're doing Ahavas Yisroel, and you gave it to Gershon. I know the truth, that you went home and took from your own savings and put it into a bag 5,000 ruble and gave it to Gershon. He says, that's true, but how do you know about it? How do I know? Because I'm the one who found it. I'm the one who really found it. See, when Gershon lost the money, I heard about it. And I right away saw it somewhere and I took it home. Instead of doing the mitzvah of Ahavas Yisroel, returning it, I took it home. I was tempted to keep it. But after a couple of days, I felt so bad about it. Especially I saw that you gave away so much money. I felt so bad, I decided I have to return the money. Who am I going to return it to? To Gershon? He got his money already. You put out the money, so I have to give it to you. And he picks up from the floor, he had in a big bag, a big sack of money, 5,000 ruble, says, David, here it is. David says, sorry, you're at the wrong address. What do you mean? I am the one who found the money. You pretended. And now I'm giving you the money. He says, I'm sorry. When I gave the money to Gershon, I did it because of a mitzvah of pikuach nefesh, to save his life. I'm happy I did the mitzvah, and I'm not giving away that mitzvah for no money in the world. So take your money and go home with it. No, I can't take the money and go home. It's not my money. He says, well, that's your problem. You'll have to figure out what to do. I'm not taking the money from you. I'm not accepting it. Well, if that's the case, David, let's go to the Rav. See what the Rav says. Maybe the Rav will say you have to take the money. Reb Levi Yitzchak is telling this story, and he said, they came to me, David and the Yid. The Yid wants to give him the money, and David does not want to accept it. And I gave out the psak. David has no obligation to accept the money. David does not have to accept it if he doesn't want to. David wants to keep the mitzvah. He has it. What am I going to do with the money? How can I do tshuva about it? Well, we'll have to figure that out. That's a separate story. But David does not have to accept the money. Levi Yitzchak looked at the people who were listening to his story, and he says, so, was David a stingy guy? Who would do such a thing? Give away so much money, 5,000 ruble, and then not accept it from someone who wants to give him back the money? That's what kind of tzaddik he was. But Reb Levi Yitzchak said to them, don't leave yet. I have two more stories. Two more such stories about Reb David that I would like to tell you. And you get to realize what kind of great tzaddik David was. And that, my dear friends, we'll hear Miyat Hashem next week. The lesson that we learned from this story, never to judge any Yid, no matter what he looks like. We have Ahavas Kol Yisroel. We love every Yid because we have Kabbalas Oil Malchus Shemayim. Seid gesund.